From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening or good morning, as the case may be, across this great land of ours. Actually, commercially, from the Hawaiian and Tahitian Islands out west, eastward to the Caribbean and the U.S. Virgin Isles. Tally-ho there in the Virgin Islands, actually all of them, south into South America, north all the way to the pole, and worldwide on the internet, thanks to broadcast.com and Intel, and of course our G2 streaming video, which I trust is back up and running tonight. If you want to see us actually do the show, as well as hear the program, you just go to my website, www.artbell.com, download the G2 player, come back up, and you will get what I call almost television, the most remarkable thing you've ever seen on the net. I would like to welcome WNTK, New London, New Hampshire, 10 big kilowatts on 1020. I'm sure they're heard all over the place. We'll be, as a matter of fact, later in the morning doing an interview tomorrow morning on that radio station, WNTK, New London, New Hampshire. Also, would like to welcome KOTA, Rapid City, South Dakota, 5 kilowatts on 1380, a good regional signal, and WSKY FM in Gainesville, Florida. Now, they are no less than 100,000 radiated watts on 97.3. They call themselves the Sky. So welcome to the Sky. Welcome to all of you as the network continues to grow at an incredible, incredible pace. Now, I will have a comment on Kosovo next hour before Terence McKenna joins us.
Inside that we need so much. The sight of a touch, or the scent of a sound, or the strength of an oak roots deep in the ground. The wonder of flowers to be covered and then to burst up through tarmac to the sun again, or to fly to the sun without burning a wing, to lie in a meadow and hear the grass sing, to have all these things in our memories stored, and we use them.
To talk with Art Bell in the Kingdom of Nye. From east of the Rockies, dial 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, 1-800-618-8255. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. And you may call Art on the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. To reach Art from outside the U.S., first dial your access number to the USA. Then 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM from the Kingdom of Nye with Art Bell.
Want to take a ride, huh? Well, you're going to tonight, because around the corner is Terence McKenna. You know who Terence McKenna is? If not, you will shortly. He is a brilliant, fast mind with a lot to say. And it shouldn't be that way, because his mind should be fried rice, actually. But it's not. We'll talk about that, too. Well, listen, good morning, everybody. I've got a couple of things I've got to get on. Actually, several. Our affiliate base continues to grow, and once again, I would like to welcome WNTK, New London, New Hampshire, 10 kilowatts on 1020, big time, huh? KOTA, Rapid City, South Dakota, 5,000 watts, 1380, and WSKY Sky FM, Gainesville, Florida, 100,000 watts on 97.3. As we race, in fact, edge ever so close to the 450 affiliate mark. We're operating under unusual conditions right now. My entire valley is out of power. I don't know if somebody's practicing for Y2K or what's going on, but the Pahrump police report to me that the power is out over my entire valley. And that's now a lot of people here in the Pahrump Valley. I have no idea how much more widespread power outage is. I do still see a glow over the hill, but that could be generators operating Las Vegas. I have no way of knowing. It's absolutely astounding. So everything is dark. The entire valley here is particularly dark. We, however, are lit up thanks to a generator and a nearly endless supply of propane. By the way, my guest who's coming up is also on a generator to be coming to us. So you're really into Generator City tonight. All right, a lot of you will not, just before we get to Terence, a lot of you will not have been privy to this since it went on the internet on my website. We, as an April Fool's joke, which really was not a joke, what I did for a very serious reason, but I figured April 1st was a good day to do it. We put up a page ostensibly berating NATO, a Yugoslav page, as if the Yugoslav hackers had hacked our site. Well, they didn't. We hacked our own site. That's right, we hacked our own site. Now, I did it for a very serious reason, actually. And I'm going to read to you, you may recall, prior to my going on vacation, this is, of course, my first day back, I told you that I bet within hours of my going on vacation we would begin bombing in Yugoslavia, and of course we are doing that. We did that. I don't think it was 6 hours. 6 hours after I went on vacation, the bombing began. So I'm afraid I was right about that. And I'm afraid I'm right about what I'm going to read you now. And a lot of you are going to disagree with it, so be it. I want to read it to you. This is what we put on our website, my answer. I wrote, the hack, computer hack, meaning computer hack. The hack seen on this site was an April 1st prank by myself and Keith Rowland. However, it was also, and I would add more importantly to make a point, though I do not agree in any way whatsoever with what the Serbs are reported to be doing, it's my view that it's none of our damn business, and I mean that. The UN might make a case for intervention when one nation invades another. Witness the Gulf War, of course. But as a libertarian, even that causes me some pause. To bomb until the Serbs agree to change their internal policy is absolute folly. Will we bomb for a few more days, weeks, months? Will we declare victory if they agree to talk? Will that end differences that have been festering longer than we've been a nation? Is this the new world order? If so, I want no part of it. If we must act beyond our borders, then let us help those displaced by the madness. The real flow of refugees, you might note, did not begin until our, in quotes, goodwill bombing, end quote, began. What's going to be our next act? To send American troops onto the ground there? Would you see your son, your daughter, die to change attitudes in Serbia? If war is to begin again, once again in Europe, that is indeed sad. But we should not be the ones to light the fuse. If this is the new world order, then where were we, pray tell, when 500,000 Africans were hacked to death? Where were we, pray tell, when millions were slaughtered in Cambodia? The world is not a nice place, ladies and gentlemen, and our bombs will not make it so. And so I did what I did to drive exactly that point home. I think what we're doing is absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. Anyway, coming up in a moment, by the way, quite a few of the press bit on our little April Fool's item. I won't name them. Quite a few in the mainstream press bit. But that was exactly the idea. That's the way you drive a point home. And I really wanted to drive this point home. If we continue on our present course, then we've lost all direction as a sovereign nation. How can we expect to remain ourselves sovereign if we do not respect the sovereignty of others? Well, that's my soapbox on what's going on with the bombing. Anybody out there know what the exit strategy is? Do we simply declare victory? Well, anyway, I could go on, and I probably will, because this one really sticks in my craw. Terence McKenna coming right up.
I'm over 40 and I swim 3 times a week. Keeps me active, in shape. That's why it's important I keep my shoulders and all my joints healthy.
Now, help support the health of your joints with Pain-Free brand from Schiff. Pain-Free is a natural supplement with glucosamine and chondroitin to help maintain healthy cartilage and lubricate joints.
I take Pain-Free because I love to swim. Makes me feel great and look great.
Move free with Pain-Free brand caplets from Schiff. Or try Joint Free Plus, Schiff's joint support drink mix at pharmacies, Costco, and GNC.
All right. Well, actually, let's do it right now. All the way across so much water we go to connect now with Terence McKenna, who's safely tucked away, I think the side of a volcano or something, isn't it, Terence?
That's right, Art. How are you this evening?
I'm fine. God, it's great to hear your voice again. It really
yes,
is.
I think it's been about a year.
It's been about a year. That's right. I'm curious. Don't hold back. I'm sure that you have been watching or at least listening to or vaguely aware of what we're doing in Europe right now. And I thought I'd probably start out by asking you your comments.
Well, I'm glad I listened in on your reading of your statement, so I know where you're coming from. Well, as you said, it's a complete mess. For the third time in the 20th century, the Balkans appear to be the place where Europe could potentially push itself into some kind of war nobody could foresee the end of. I read analysis of Milosevic and his regime 5 years ago that predicted this would be the end game, that Kosovo was where push would come to shove, and now here we are, there's only a few months left in the 20th century, but time for one more atrocity, apparently.
Apparently. And now I understand, by the way, Terence, late news, there are 7 Russian warships on the way to the area to, they say, observe, but I don't know. You get 7 Russian warships, and of course the Russians are not at all happy with us. They've been rattling all kinds of sabers about this, and it really could still happen. Remember the old days of duck and cover? You remember that, Terence? Duck and cover?
Right. No, I think, Vietnam gave the domino theory a bad name, but I think in the Balkans, the domino theory may well have something to say. Watch Macedonia, watch Albania. As the destabilization spreads, Greece and Turkey could be pulled in. The Russians are beginning to move toward it. And don't think anyone is in control of all this, or as you say, what's the exit strategy? It's easy going in. Nobody knows how you get out of this kind of thing.
Yeah, we're throwing, of course, these cruise missiles, firing these cruise missiles, beginning to run out of them, incidentally, but we are firing what we have. When they run out, that means more airplanes, and then eventually, when that strategy fails, then you're faced with a choice of either retreating, and it's another Vietnam, or putting in ground troops and starting down the same horrible road of no return.
Well, and remember, ground troops couldn't make a difference in Vietnam either. Yes, I think aerial bombing, how many times in the 20th century are we going to learn that it's insufficient and it's a very weak-kneed approach if you're talking about all-out war with fascists?
And then, Terence, also, even if we did bomb them which I suppose is conceivable, to the point where they said, okay, we'll talk about peace. And then we move peacekeepers. We're peacemakers now, not peacekeepers. But we finally get peacekeepers in there. There's no exit strategy at all. Look at Bosnia. They said we'd be there for a year, and then a year and a half, and then on and on and on. We never get out. And when we do finally leave, they will resume the same thing they were doing.
Yes, well, NATO seems to have become the kind of military arm of the world corporate state
yes, sir.
that many people feared.
Yes, sir. What the Serbs are doing, there's no way to countenance, but I'm not so sure I'm so happy with this new world of ours.
Well, as you say, you can't countenance what is happening in Kosovo. On the other hand, what happened in Rwanda, what happened in Cambodia, these things didn't raise anybody's radar.
No, it's really rarely does something politically grab me these days. I've been really bored to death with politics, especially the whole damn Monica thing. Thank God that seems to be over, maybe.
Well, you remember you and I talked when we were about 6 weeks into it last year, and I said that I didn't think this was going to bring happiness to the right wing.
Well, it didn't. It brought, as a matter of fact, it kind of tore the right wing all to pieces. And I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a very interesting election coming up. What do you think will happen?
Oh, I assume that if the Democrats can't win this one after what the country's been through, then they're probably finished. But I think it'll be an easy win for Gore. I think the Republicans are flirting at the end of the 20th century with the kind of fate the Whigs were looking at the end of the 18th century. They need a program and an agenda. Running against the president has gone about as far as it can go, I think.
That's right, and I think a lot of people are just running away from that one now. Well, how's it going there? I mean, but look, there's a whole new audience. I keep forgetting. I probably have 100 affiliates since the last time I talked to you. So maybe we ought to take a second, and you should tell everybody who Terence McKenna is.
Who Terence McKenna is.
That's right. If you were to have to answer that, which you do now, what would you say?
Well, I guess my bio says writer and explorer. Explorer means explorer of hallucinogenic plants, strange usages of exotic plants by exotic people, and then coming back and talking about these things, advocating them. Alteration of consciousness leads to all the big philosophical issues. What is culture? What is history? Where are we going? And how are we going to get there? And what's going to be so great about it when we get there? So I'm an itinerant philosopher at the end of the 20th century.
Well, the average Joe out there, maybe driving a truck, across Indiana somewhere, probably is saying to himself right now, well, why should I listen to anything emanating from this drug-scorched brain? But of course, that's the only problem with you, Terence, is your brain doesn't appear to be drug-scorched, and it should be. If what the establishment tells us about drugs is even partly true, you should be a basket case.
Well, maybe I am.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
But I think the guy driving his semi across Indiana, he may be a little scorched himself this time of night.
Well, he's scorched in a different way, trying to keep his eyes open, get the load delivered. That's right. No, you're absolutely right about it.
It's true. The stereo of the cannabis enthusiast can't think straight, can't remember where they put the keys. I've never felt that way about these things. I think cultures choose the drugs they want to stigmatize, and then they glorify others, and it differs from culture to culture. The social consequences differ according to the choices made, but alteration of consciousness by human beings is as old as human beings themselves.
That's quite true. Do you think that it would be fair to suggest, it would be certainly something that'd probably get us in a lot of trouble, but that there are some hallucinogenic drugs that do, in fact, give people legitimate, underline that word, insights that they would otherwise perhaps not realize.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you give me a lead-in to talk about one of the things I'm doing at the moment, which is after a conference in Mexico on hallucinogenic botany this year, a couple of friends of mine and I decided to organize a conference on the theme you just stated, a conference on the creative process and hallucinogenic substances, because there's a huge amount of the art, design, and fashion world that has for years been using these things to fuel the engines of creativity.
Precisely.
But it's all been in the closet and very...
Well, listen, we're at the bottom of the hour, and we'll pick up on this when we come back. Terence McKenna in Hawaii is my guest. This is Coast to Coast. Yeah.
Talk with Art Bell in the Kingdom of Nye from outside the U.S. First, dial your access number to the USA. Then, 800-893-0903. If you're a first-time caller, call Art at 702-727-1222. From east of the Rockies, 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, call Art at 1-800-618-8255. or call Art on the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. This is Coast to Coast AM from the Kingdom of Nye.
Terence McKenna is probably unlike anybody you're ever going to have the pleasure of listening to and meeting. Terence McKenna really has picked up the gauntlet from Timothy Leary. And you may reject what he has to say, but at the very least, if you claim to have an open mind, you really, really must consider it. All right. Well, the old myth, you know, is that try this. If you think your creativity is heightened when you're on some sort of hallucinogenic drug, then make notes, write a story, paint a painting, conduct some music, play some music, sing. And see if, when you're down, it was really as good as when you were up. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, in a way, isn't it, Terence?
Yeah, well, most of us probably would come in on the low end of that scale, although there are some spectacular counterexamples. Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote Kubla Khan, Stoned on Opium. The insight to the structure of the benzene molecule came to someone after a cognac-inspired dream. The character of creative breakthrough is like a revelation, the aha experience. Yes. And sometimes it's a bump on the head, and sometimes it's a hallucinogenic experience, but it always has the character of sort of arriving in a completed form. You know what I mean?
Yes. Why are there so many striking counter examples? Why? That's a question you never hear dealt with in the public. In fact, you never hear about it at all. They suppress that information. But why sometimes is a drug a key to creativity that you would not have otherwise? Why?
Well, I think it's because of the larger effect of these drugs, which is that they dissolve boundaries. And many of the boundaries which enclose us are boundaries of habit, convention, and under the influence of the drug, we see beyond those boundaries. The job of artists has always been to sort of be an antenna into the future, and bohemians have always been associated with drug taking to some degree. So I think it's a very understandable process. It's simply that we're now beginning to understand it, and we have to, because the number of substances available and being discovered all the time is beyond the power of the courts and the scientific establishment to really manage.
Well, I don't know. If you go to a doctor, you will notice these days, Terence, I don't know whether you ever go to doctors, but when you do, a doctor will say, you know what, I know you're in a terrible amount of pain, and I really wish that I could prescribe more to keep you out of pain, because that's the way a doctor feels. You know, they're trying to ease your suffering, but the doctor will tell you, frankly, the DEA is looking right behind my shoulder, and a number of my colleagues have lost their licenses, and so, frankly, I can't really give you what you need. That's prescribed.
Oh, well, this is a part of the drug problem. The hysteria on drugs has made so many different people and institutions crazy in so many different ways. I really, on the general larger question of hard drugs, I'm quite despairing, because so many people and institutions make money off the present mess.
Yes.
You know, the prison builders, the rehab people, the criminal syndicates, the bought-off cops, the paid-off judges. Everybody is making money on this racket that they pretend to wring their hands over.
That's absolutely correct. And heaven knows what the police would do if they couldn't chase narcotics people. They would literally have about 10% or 20% at most of their job left. And I think our prisons would be more or less about 60 or 70% empty as compared to their present content.
The courts would unclog and lawyers would have to find honest work.
So in other words, it's never going to happen.
You got it, Art.
Well, what are you doing in terms of researching this interesting, creative truth. How are you going to do that?
Well, I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this, but I'm interested, of course, in what these substances do to me and to other individuals. But then there's a whole other area, which is what has the impact of substances and drugs been on large populations over long periods of time?
Ooh.
And I'm willing to argue that the evolution of human language and complex cultural forms themselves were caused by disruptions in the ordinary mental functioning of perfectly happy primates about 150,000 years ago. In other words, that the evolution of complex human culture based on language is actually an effect of brain perturbations and unusual states of consciousness that were eventually assimilated and became part of the behavioral toolkit of early human beings.
So you're saying it's actually a part of, and a continuing part of, evolution itself.
That's right, and the important thing for modern people is a continuing part of. So when you talk about drugs, you know, today we're focusing on the drug of the day, whatever it is, heroin or methadone. But in fact, over the past 1,000 years, it's been drugs that have built the empires that created Western civilization. Sugar, tobacco, alcohol, opium, tea,
Coffee.
chocolate.
Coffee.
These are the drugs that shaped civilization.
Coffee.
Coffee, another big one.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we don't think of these as drugs. We call them foods or whatever we call them, because a drug is a bad thing, a food is a good thing. But eventually, I think people are going to wise up to this racket, and they need to, because we need to educate our children about this complex area of human behavior. There are dangerous drugs. There are drugs that, used carefully, can be a tremendous enhancement of life. But you have to know what you're doing. It's not something you just blunder into. And all generalizations will have exceptions.
And they do, indeed. Recently, you know, as you well know, we have a drug czar. And recently our czar actually came out and made a couple of really remarkable statements. He said that he thought the debate over medical marijuana was now a legitimate one. And he even went further and he said it may well be that the use of marijuana recreationally may be a valid debate for our society to have. And I almost fell on the floor when I heard him say that.
Well, it would be a wonderful thing for Clinton to do, for Gore and the country, to make some headway in the end of this administration on this issue, so that it doesn't all have to be left to the first term of a new Democrat. I mean, how long are we going to dog this matter? It really should be part of the agenda of the new century to make drug suppression a 20th century phenomenon, along with racism, fascism, aerial bombing of civilians, and so forth and so on. As I said, it's a racket. The insurance companies know that people who smoke cannabis are not at greater health risk.
Well, you know, that's a good point, because they always ask whether you smoke. They don't ask whether you smoke pot. They ask whether you smoke cigarettes. And they're really concerned about that. In fact, a lot of cases,
they've got the numbers on that.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of cases you can't even get insured if you are a smoker.
But the fact is, cannabis is such an effective stress reducer that whatever effect the tar in it is having on you, it's more than offset by your low blood pressure, excellent digestion, good sleep, and so forth and so on.
Do you think? do you think that there will be any progress soon based on the recent statements made? Is there going to be some sort of? Now, even my state, Nevada. Now, Nevada, Terence, it does not look kindly on even marijuana. It is a felony in Nevada. And recently we had a state-wide initiative here in which the people of Nevada said yes to,
Call toll-free 1-800-618-8255.
Oh, my. Well, it looks like we just went through another brief blackout, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to have to get Terence back on the line. You may have heard a little sort of a noise in the background, and that was indeed the blackout. So we're going to have to try to get Terence back on again and continue to revise and look at our power situation here. We are in a power outage. So I will continue to disable things that we don't need, and we will continue to run on Gen. Well, I'll tell you, welcome, huh? April 1st, coming in like a storm, to be sure. So Terence, if you're out there listening, my friend, we're going to have to take a bit more of a break here so that I can get you back on the line. Sorry about that, buddy. It's just one of those things. So, in a moment, once again, Terence McKenna. In 1859, the famous Comstock silver lode was discovered here in the mountains of Nevada. In order to avoid shipping that silver a great distance to be minted into coins, our government opened the Carson City Mint near Virginia City in 1869. After only 24 years of operating, with the Comstock now played out, that mint was closed and today is a museum. In 1964, after nearly 100 years of obscurity, the Treasury Department discovered original bags of the famous Carson City silver dollars, which had never been issued to the public. My friends at David Hall's North American Trading have been able to purchase a limited number of these beautiful uncirculated coins, which offer a historical reminder of the time when pioneers were still discovering the Old West. At just
First-time callers call area 702-727-1222.
Well, it just looks as though we're going to have this and that going on for a while. I think we're almost restored, So everybody hang in there. We'll do one more thing and bring back Terence McKenna. I'm sure we will. It's true. Not all internet service providers are quite created equal. I'm talking about MindSpring, the ISP created over time by good people who built their company one customer at a time. Their customer service, their ability to put you on the internet is simply unsurpassed, and that's why both PC World and PC Computing magazines awarded them the best internet service provider for 1998. Move your internet connection to MindSpring today. Tomorrow morning, call them, 1-888-M-SPRING. That's 1-888-M-SPRING. Tell them Art Bell sent you, and guess what? They'll waive the $25 startup fee, give you 30 days of service free from the day you sign up. MindSpring gives you great customer service, 24 hours a day, fast 56K connections. Not the 28K connections used by, those other companies. Oh, and the Spaminator. I love that. A device that eliminates pesky, unwanted email advertisements. Go to the internet service provider, created especially for people that do like good customer service. That would be you, right? Tomorrow morning, call award-winning MindSpring, 1-888-M-SPRING. And remember, the $25 startup fee will be waived, and the first 30 days of service is free. All you have to do is mention Art Bell sent you. 1-888-M-SPRING. Boy, I wonder if we're getting kind of a preview of Y2K or something. This has really been a trip. Terence, welcome back.
Yes, I was thinking, isn't April 1st one of those rollover dates for Y2K?
Yes, it is. And I'm
Isn't
not.
The Federal Republic of Germany and California and New York State all go to their long-term physical projections?
I think that's true. Japan as well, I think. By the way, since you mentioned it, or I mentioned it, what do you think about Y2K there? There's kind of a range from, hey, nothing's going to happen, to, hey, everything's going to come to a screeching halt. Where are you in that scale?
I guess I'm sort of a mugwump on this one, with my mug on one side of the fence and my wump on the other. It seems to me it'll probably be there will be local breakdowns, but the whole system, I imagine, will flow around it. I mean, that's my expectation.
So,
it's one of those problems where people are highly motivated to solve it. So if they can't solve this, I don't know. What are they going to do in Kosovo?
Oh, I don't get me started. You're absolutely right. I too think that a lot of the warnings that have gone out and a lot of the scare stuff really has motivated a lot of people to action. But still, there may be lurking out there, Terence, hundreds of thousands of embedded chips in power companies around the country. And it's going to be sort of interesting to see what happens. And if we were to lose power on a major portion of the grid for even some fairly serious amount of time, how long civilization as we know it would hang together? You wonder about that? Ever wonder about that?
Well, I wonder about it from the confines of a tropical island with mild winters. Yeah. You'll have our sympathy, Art. Maybe you should think of a Hawaiian vacation at the end of the year.
Oh, I've been thinking about it for some time now, Terence, and I fully intend to come and see you. What's it like where you are?
Well, what's it like? It's at about 2,000 feet in a rainforest of hardwood trees and tree ferns, 80 inches of rainfall, temperature never below 55, never above 95.
In other words, paradise.
It's a word they use around here. I think the Visitor Bureau has a lock on it, but yeah.
You are on the side of a volcano, and
the world's largest active volcano, which is Mauna Loa, which is a mighty, mighty mountain. It actually is the world's highest mountain because it rises 13,000 feet from the seafloor, and or about 17,000 feet from the seafloor to sea level, and then 12,000 feet more.
All right. We're at the top of the hour. And so we'll make some power adjustments here and be right back. This one's for you, Terence. Stay right where you are, okay?
Okay.
Indeed, this one's for you.
Little kids behind, come with us and find the pleasures of the journey to the center of the mind. Come along if you can. Come along if you can. Take a ride to the land inside of your mind. Beyond the seed of God, beyond the realm of what. Across the streets of hopes and dreams where things are really hot. Come along if you can. Come along if you dare. Take a ride to the land inside of your mind. But please realize you'll probably be surprised. For it's the land unknown to man where fantasy is best. So if you can, please understand you might not come back. Take a ride to the back of the sun and you'll see how happy the life will be. If all of mankind would take the time to journey to the center of the mind, would take the time to journey to the center of the mind, center of the mind.
From the Kingdom of Nye, this is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. From east of the Rockies, call Art at 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, at 1-800-618-8255. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. And you may fax Art at area code 702-727-8499. Please limit your faxes to 1 or 2 pages. This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. Now again, here's Art.
Oh my, how we depend on our civilization. We've been going through gigantic power spikes and drops here. It's been amazing. We're just now coming back onto commercial power. My guest is Terence McKenna. He's a guy who'd know what it's like. He'd know what it's like to be without commercial power, because I don't think he has any. For a long time, the only way he could get out by phone was some sort of radio phone, internet phone, and that's probably what I'm talking to him on right now. He's a very, very interesting guy. Terence is fascinating. I've got a lot of questions for him. He'll be back in a moment. Coast to Coast AM back on commercial power and trying to get the computers back up. Oh my, how we depend on technology. Once again, Terence McKenna. Terence, in fact, I'm going to be talking to one next week, another brilliant theoretical physicist. I talk frequently with Dr. Michio Kaku. And it is his view that the odds of our making it through to the other side of the discovery and dealing with element 92, that our odds are very, very teeny-weeny indeed. In other words, when any civilization, and there must be many out there, discover element 92 inevitably, almost inevitably, they end up destroying themselves. Any thoughts on that? You think we'll make it through?
Well, I think it's remarkable that we've had atomic weapons for over 50 years now, and they were only used very shortly, within weeks after their perfection. And after that, somehow, in all the wars, revolutions, and posturing that's gone on, we've never resorted to the nuclear option.
Sure.
So I would argue that maybe the discovery of the transuranium elements and their properties had a marvelously sobering effect on carnivorous monkeys like ourselves. But I can usually find a silver lining, Art.
Good. Then you may want to find one in the fact that 7 Russian warships are now headed to meet up with and, or in their words, observe what we are doing with regard to the bombing of the Serbs.
Well, you just keep going back to that. I think that's a case of trying to make a purse out of a cow's ear or a sow's ear.
That's right, exactly right. Anyway, I hope that we make it through. I have great doubts.
Well, there are many other challenges. I mean, I'm sure you've probably discussed on your program the Terminator gene.
Oh, yes. Isn't that wonderful?
That's a good one. There's the gray goo scenario of a nanotechnological breakout. There's, you've got Earth changes. I guess we've probably talked about how Alfred North Whitehead said the business of the future is to be dangerous.
Well, we're doing good business. Because, boy, it's a dangerous world out there right now. It's a really dangerous world. Listen, here's somebody who asks, all right, would you please ask Terence, if the drug DMT, which occurs naturally in our bodies, is released at death, and if it is, could this possibly account for some of the near-death experiences that people report? It's Mike in Houston.
Well, yeah, I think that's a very reasonable suggestion. I first heard that notion put forth from Rupert Sheldrake, and I think he called it a necrotogen, a drug which simulates the symptoms of near death. It certainly is. The near-death experience is a dramatic analog to the DMT experience, but I also think we produce DMT in deep dream states. I would lay money on that. I mean, it's known that it's produced in cerebrospinal fluid at the same time that there's high REM activity in the brain, which usually indicates deep dreaming.
If DMT is indeed the coach that drives NDEs, then what does that tell us, if anything, about what does or does not lie beyond this short mortal life?
Well, I've thought a lot about that. If we take the evidence seriously, the DMT state seems to indicate some kind of hyperdimensional matrix that is actually inhabited by some kind of language-using form of energy that can at least relate to the presence of human beings. I've said maybe these were dead souls, an ecology of souls. This is certainly what shamans would claim.
Dead souls.
If that's true and can be verified by something as simple as a psychoactive drug experience that lasts 15 minutes, then we really, scientifically, at the end of the 20th century, have been looking in all the wrong places. I think we have been looking in all the wrong places, and that the real frontier of science is the human mind and its potential, and we're not going to unlock that till we get over all this queasiness and hand-wringing on the issue of drugs and drug research and drug use and so forth and so on.
Well, I guess you could either view the use of some of these hallucinogenics as a peek at the other side, a peek at what lies beyond the physical, and truly lies beyond the physical. In other words, there are a lot of things that I believe our brains can do, after all, and I think it's Princeton and other prestigious universities, they're proving that the mind can affect random number generators, that we can do that. The proof is quite substantial, actually, but that's something that a conscious mind does. It's not something that a dead mind does. There are many other things that our living minds can do. For example, they can enable us to travel outside our bodies. I did it once. I know now it's true. You can, in effect, be outside your body. But I have not decided yet, Terence, whether that experience represents something that I will find after my mortal existence.
Do the wild thing at 702-727-1295.
Human brain, and we just lost it again. Boy, we really are just having quite a night of it here, folks. Poor Terence. After all that build-up, I'm going to have to do something and get him back on the line. There are obvious, severe power difficulties going on here right now, folks. So all I can say is bear with us, and Terence will be right back. Are you overweight? Would you like to lose a guaranteed average 8 to 10 pounds in the next month? Well, we know fiber sweeps fat out of your digestive tract like a broom as a natural course of events. But a new fiber, chitosan, natural because it is derived from shellfish, not only sweeps out fat, but listen to me, 10 times as much fat as any other fibers. So it allows this amazing guarantee. Here it is. Eat as you normally do, not more, just as you normally do, no great sacrifice. Order a 90-day supply of Chito Slim. With it, you get an antioxidant moisturizing cream free of charge. Call 1-800-557-4627. Now the guarantee. If you don't lose 8 to 10 pounds in the next month, you get all your money back, and you keep the cream. It's not available in stores, but you can get it by calling 1-800-557-4627. That's Great American Products at 1-800-557-4627. You've got nothing to lose but the fat. Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, we're really getting a Y2K example out here in the Pahrump Valley right now. It's really a serious situation tonight with the power. I have no idea what's going on, but whatever it is, it's not good. And it's covering a great deal of geography, so bear with us, everybody. Once again, here's Terence. See, every time that happens, our phone connection separates. And there's Terence out in the middle of nowhere with a generator staying right on line as I drop off. Anyway, Terence, look, I did this big build-up, and then the phone went away. I was, I guess, approaching what I know about the conscious mind. I know to be true, and what I wonder about. And, of course, what I wonder about is whether there really is some sort of continuation. What's your view? Terence?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that was a long pause.
Formulating my thoughts.
No, I understand. On a night like this, long pauses probably mean the power is going out.
Well, I agree that you can't be sure that DMT is showing you the great beyond. It may be showing you the dying brain. It may be taking you to the very edge of death, but that is not death itself.
It may be showing you the great within. That's what it may be showing you.
Yes, and it doesn't settle the metaphysical questions, except it certainly is strong evidence that everything we've been told about entities, about the capacity of the human mind, that things are a good deal more complicated than that. To me, it's the great exception to all rules. What it itself says, other than that all rules have exceptions, I'm not sure.
Terence, if the power were to go out and stay out, I'll pick Honolulu, all right? In Honolulu, that's a big city, close to you. If the power went out and stayed out for a month in Honolulu, what do you think would happen socially?
Well, in any city, I think push would come to shove in a hurry because water pumps would not work, and so the city water supply would be only what was in the pipes, and you can take the scenario from there. I live on an island hundreds of miles from Honolulu, and thankfully so. I'm not a survivalist, at least not consciously, but I've certainly built a system that is redundant, off-grid, wireless, and capable of maintaining itself without any help from anybody else. I'm concerned about people in cities, even if Y2K does not bring the end of the world, in very dense population centers like Tokyo and Manhattan, where simply the number of embedded chips is exponentially high. The possibility of some kind of chain reaction failure is consequently high as well. So I think people should give consideration to moving out of those kinds of areas, even if just temporarily.
Mm-hmm. That's quite a bit of advice. Now, understand that as you dispense that advice, you're being heard right now in in every major city in America, every single major city, New York City, Atlanta, I wouldn't even go through them all, every major city in America, you're speaking to these people, and that's some serious advice you're handing out there.
Well, one of the things on this Y2K thing, Art, and today is an interesting day to discuss it, is it should clarify as we get closer. There are going to be a couple of rollover dates this month, a big rollover date in August. I can't believe that we're just going to slam into the millennial date with half of the population thinking it's the end of the world and half assuring us it's no big deal. Is it not going to become more clear?
I guess it is, but in the end, your advice is, in other words, you think there are going to be problems in cities, and how long do you think that thread of civilization would last? A day? Half a day, 2 days? They did a
72 hours in most places.
72 hours.
And then, of course, what the concern is, I suppose, is that the grid will fail in areas where there's bad weather and deep snow, and that it will be very hard to get it back up and going. I am not an electrical engineer. I don't think anybody who isn't can make an informed judgment on that.
Yeah, I can't. And I'm accused of being gloom doom about all of this, but I do see what would occur. I think at least I know, frankly, what would occur if we lost our power. There was a movie called The Trigger Effect. Did you ever get to see that? Probably not.
I didn't.
It really shows how quickly civilization would deteriorate if the power went off and people began to conclude it wasn't going to come on anytime soon, and people reverted to early animal states rather quickly, a matter of days, as you just said.
Well, all these disaster scenarios raise the opportunity for people to imagine that civilization will just slide out from under us. I went through a flood in Northern California years ago where the power was off for 6.5 days, and it did.
Call us toll-free at 1-800-618-8255.
Oh, my. Here we go again, folks. This is not going to be an easy night, I can see that. I have no idea what they're doing out there, no idea whatsoever. But I guess all I can do is roll with the punches. One good thing, we will get all of the commercials caught up as I continually go back and retrieve Terence. Did you know the average person carries 5 to 10 pounds of toxic matter in their intestinal tract? This continually releases poisons into your bloodstream, causing a variety of symptoms like decreased immune function, chronic fatigue, even degenerative diseases. And that's why I recommend Dr. Teplisky's Super Detox Program, and I take it too, a 4-step program to completely cleanse your body of toxic waste. It scrubs your intestinal tract clean, removes stored toxins in your organs, kills yeast and parasites, and restores healthy bacteria. It'll make your body clean, vibrant, and healthy. And when you buy steps 1 and 2 of the Super Detox Program, you get steps 3 and 4 absolutely free. Call Physician's Choice now at 1-800-472-5151. Look, it's guaranteed to work or you get your money back and you can't get it in stores. So call 1-800-472-5151. That's 1-800-472-5151. Buy 2 steps and get 2 steps free when you call now. Once again, Terence McKenna, we'll just have to keep getting him back as the power glitches. And we can handle it either way, but what we're getting, Terence, are these short little ba-boom type breaks. And when that happens, my phone system goes, goodbye, everybody. It's absolutely amazing. I'm getting a good lesson tonight. I'm getting a really good lesson tonight. So, anyway, Y2K. So you think, as I do, that you simply aren't going to predict what will happen, but are pretty sure what will happen socially if it does happen.
Well, and here in Hawaii, we're at the end of the time for the day, so it will have happened in 22 time zones before it gets here. So we'll have a notion of it if it's rolling toward us.
Yeah, I guess that's right. So will you, what do you plan to do, by the way, on New Year's Eve?
Well, go to a party, of course.
Really? You're going to go to a party, really?
Well, fortunately, the party is only about 3 miles away. I can, I assume I can fight my way back here in the confusion afterwards.
Did you know, Terence, the communist Chinese government has ordered all of the management personnel of all of the airlines to be in the air in a Chinese aircraft flying the 31st into the 1st. An interesting... Why, you say?
Yes.
Well, I think twofold. One, to give the people of China confidence that their airplanes will be safe. And two, if they're not safe, then there won't be any concern about the management personnel who were on the flights. They'll have a whole new regime. But that is true. They're doing that, Terence. Hold on.
These old socialist ways linger on.
That's right. Stay right there. We'll be right back. I think Terence McKenna's here, and this is Coast to Coast AM on and off.
Take the long way. Or should you carry your feelings? Take the long way home. Take the long way home. There are times that you feel your heart is beating. Oh, go home. Take the long way home. Through the ghost of the neighborhood, or should you carry your feelings good? Take the long way home. Take the long way home. There are times that you feel your heart is beating. Oh, it's leaving me. Coming down, boy. Let your wife do the things your father's gonna do.
To talk with Art Bell in the Kingdom of Nye. From east of the Rockies, dial 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, 1-800-618-8255. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. And you may call Art on the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. To reach Art from outside the U.S., first dial your access number to the USA. Then 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM from the Kingdom of Nye with Art Bell.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, what a wild night this has been. First night back from vacation, and we have been experiencing wild times with power. Indeed. Y2K? Question mark? I don't know. But it's been wild here. We'll find out eventually what's causing all this. In the meantime, we'll try as best we can to stay on the air. Well, this would at least serve as a pretty good example of just a very little example of what can happen when everything is not just so. I mean, I have computers. I had to reestablish ISDN connections. I had computers coming up in safe modes. I've got all kinds of things going on here. Once again, here's Terence McKenna. Terence, how much of a loner are you there on your volcano?
Well, I'm somewhat of a hermit. I live up here with my girlfriend up a four-wheel drive road that's pretty hairy, and we try to go to town on Mondays and Fridays, and that's the lifestyle when I'm now out on the road. When I'm on the road, I feel like I'm running for president, so it's always a pleasure to get back here.
What takes you on the road?
Lecturing. That's where I make my money. That's what butters the bread.
Mm-hmm. When you lecture, what do you lecture about?
I lecture about technology, shamanism, hallucinogens, human evolution, language as a virus from outer space, syntactical aliens, epistemic balkanization, stuff like that.
Sheesh. That's a lot to lecture about. Do you generally serve up a smorgasbord when you do a lecture of all of these things, or do you do specific lectures, or both?
I do both, but usually my audiences are familiar with my material, and they come primed with questions, and it's usually pretty easy to get a self-generated discussion going based on what people there are interested in, you know.
I am very, very, very interested in time, really interested in time. And this has been one area I know that you've talked a lot about. What do you believe about the nature of time, Terence?
Well, what I believe about it that is different from what you'll hear anywhere else is I believe that that probability actually fluctuates in time. That time is not an abstract idea. It's actually a medium, and that there's an ebb and flow in time on many scales of what I call novelty and habit, and that over time, novelty is in ascendancy. You could say the cosmos is a novelty-producing and conserving system of some sort. So the evolution of higher animals and human cultures and high technology is all in response to this universal appetite for complexification, which I call novelty. And mathematically, we've produced graphs of this that allow you to predict where in historical time and where in the future there should have been great advances in novelty. And
well,
it's really a way of... Pardon me?
I think that I'm beginning to grasp the concept of novelty. If I understand it correctly, then you can look back and you can see what occurred with novelty as we have evolved, and then you should also be able to look ahead, should you not?
That's right. It's just nobody would argue that the development of novelty has been even in the historical past. It's obviously proceeded in spurts and then periods of quiescence and so forth. And when you apply that to the future, you see the same thing, except that it leads to an observation which you and I have achieved by different means. You call it the quickening, I call it the concrescence, but I think both our notions have been drawn toward the idea that this explosion in novelty will keep accelerating. Things become more and more and more novel, faster and faster. And this is really the character of the world that we're living in, and it's destined to become ever more intense in this particular direction.
Surely it is headed toward a climax of some sort, or perhaps even a series of climaxes, if you were to be able to look down 200, 300 years, 400 years, 1,000 years, a series of climactic occurrences and changes? Or,
well, I think we're mastering energy, we're mastering our genetic code, time and space. Yes, I agree. A series of climaxes, each one more awesome and unimaginable than the ones that preceded it. And this is becoming the dominant characteristic of human existence, is the anticipation and then the experiencing of these surges in the system toward ever greater self-expression of novelty.
what great examples of spikes up out of the noise in novelty would you cite in the past?
Oh, well, the Italian Renaissance, the Greek Enlightenment that gave us Plato and Aristotle and mathematical theories of nature, eras where invention, movements of people, and the birth of ideas were very concentrated. You know, there was a 40-year period in the 5th century BC when Lao Tzu, Mencius, Confucius, Parmenides, Ezekiel, and several other luminaries, all, if they had air tickets, could have had a dinner party together. Well, that's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. And are we able in any way, based on what has occurred in the past with regard to these spikes, able to predict where this particular cycle is going? In other words, what's coming?
Well, I've noticed in trying to track different things with these curves that I produce, I look at movement of languages, immigration of people, energy production. What the curves describe best is technological innovation. So I've come to see human history as a kind of alchemical process of bootstrapping ourselves to higher levels of I suppose you'd call spiritual existence, but through machines, through prosthesis. The machine, far from being alienating and other, is in fact basic somehow. The machines are the prosthesis of the new human. Of course, the new human is the prosthesis of the new machines. This is all going to take some getting used to.
Are we headed towards some brave new world where machines perhaps might even one day take the initiative from us and, in fact, become our masters, as many worry? The coming miniaturization of everything, the possibility of sentient computers, all the rest of it, that kind of world?
Well, I don't know if they will take control, but I think within 20 years, Art, you will encounter machines that will claim to be smarter than you are and be able to convincingly behave as though they were. And the issue, are they more intelligent than the average human being? Are they sentient entities? That'll just be left to philosophers to sort out.
Well, right now, in Europe, don't mean to interrupt, sorry, we are again demonstrating how we kill each other over religious, ethnic differences. We have always done that, and would not some machine that became at least as intelligent, if not more intelligent, and coldly logical, conclude that something has to be done about this and begin to, if it could, take steps?
Well, I read a very interesting book by a guy named Michael DeLanda, who would make an excellent guest for you. He wrote a book called War in the Age of Intelligent Machines.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want a hair-raising look into the future, this is somebody who can give it to you. There's a lot of debate among the AI, the artificial intelligence people, about what this superintelligence that seems to be emerging will be like. If it doesn't have the ethics of Buddha, the human race may be down for the count.
Precisely. Or at least controlled for the count.
Well, yes, it's very hard to imagine what superintelligence would actually look like and what it would make of us.
Well, certainly it would conclude we are acting irrationally, damaging ourselves, it would look at that coldly and logically, and then it would begin, if it could, I think, to take some steps. So,
well, maybe by thinking along these lines, we can anticipate those steps and take them ourselves in a gentler style. In other words, the first thing any superintelligence would conclude about human beings is there are too damn many of them.
That's correct. And that would be one of the first steps, Terence.
Yes, well, so are we to turn ourselves into hamburger, or shall we have a gentle program of sexual education on the subject of abstinence and restraint?
Well, do you think you would be invited to speak at the Vatican about that?
No, probably not. My Polish is pretty rusty.
There are a few things that stand in the way of that reality. I suppose an intelligence might conclude, well, the wars do seem to be serving some purpose in limiting the numbers.
Well, but it's a testament to our own primitive state if we have to rely on primitive Darwinian culling of the herd to keep us vital. It indicates it's a failure of civilization. It's precisely what it is. It's a reversion to barbarism. The 20th century has been embarrassingly scarred by these episodes where very supposedly advanced civilizations with long histories have slipped into the darkness, and we need to understand what causes that, because as weapons grow more deadly and populations more restive, this is going to be a recurring problem.
And the consequences are far more final. Have I spoken with you about Matthew Alper?
I don't believe so.
Matthew wrote a book called The God Part of the Brain. And it simply concludes that man's greatest fear, long ago and certainly now, is of death. It is our greatest fear. It is the one fear our minds cannot contend with. It is the fear we cannot face, and therefore, in the process of evolution, our brains have developed a God part, what he calls a God part of the brain, which demands that we worship something and believe in an afterlife. And without that, there would be virtual anarchy. And yet that is the very thing that causes us to kill each other constantly. But even when you go down into the recesses, the wilds of Brazil, and you find a tribe that has never encountered civilization before, sure enough, inevitably you find they worship something, Terence. Interesting theory, huh?
It sounds like he's sort of working off some of the theories of Julian Jaynes. He suggested in a book about the evolution of consciousness from the bicameral mind, Jaynes suggested that as recently as the time of Homer, people had no egos. They actually, God spoke directly to them in situations of crisis and threat, and that it was only after centuries of this that this God consciousness part of the psyche was incorporated into the structures of the psyche as the human ego, and that it's actually an invention less than 3,000 years old.
Do you believe that travel in time, in any direction, actual travel in time, will be possible, or perhaps even go out on a limb and suggest that not only is it possible, but no doubt we are being visited now?
Well, I certainly believe it's possible to travel in the forward direction. I think Kurt Gödel, as early as 1949, pretty well nailed that down. The mind is, cultures create our mental confinement in time. This goes back to the psychedelic statement that psychedelics dissolve boundaries. It really, a shaman is a human mind capable of traveling in time. So I think when we understand our own consciousness, phenomena like time travel will be a part of that understanding. It will just kick out as a natural part of it. I'm sure you've probably discussed on your program these quantum teleportation experiments over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, that's way out science, but nobody expected that for 1,000 years.
Yes, a lot of people may not know, but IBM actually has done some very crude teleportation. They've actually moved. Can you describe what they did?
Yes, you're absolutely right. They moved photons in some kind of teleportation experiment. They moved them several meters at greater than the speed of light. In fact, at a travel time of 0, as far as anybody can tell. And apparently the quantum mechanical equations which allow this effect don't prohibit larger objects or even living objects. It's just a matter of scaling up the power input. Well, good Lord, if we're 5 or 10 years away from being able to teleport objects and possibly human beings, you can't even begin to imagine the sociological and political consequences of something like that.
Well, it would completely change everything we know and do. Every concept we have nearly would collapse, and it would indeed be a whole new ballgame, wouldn't it?
It would be a whole new ballgame, and a concept like that has to compete with a concept like nanotechnology or digital copying of human beings or cloning, or there are half a dozen of these potential technologies out there, any one of which would remake the world beyond recognition if it were to be perfected.
Oh, Terence, I think we're already cloning. They already absolutely have the technology. Now, they claim they are not doing it, and they're doing it with sheep, and we see Dolly, and we see this, and we see that. But they have the technology now to clone human beings, and I don't for 1 second think that somebody somewhere in some lab, and I don't exclude our country from this, is cloning. What do you think?
It wouldn't surprise me at all. It would surprise me if it was happening inside the United States, because then there'd be hell to pay. But somewhere in the Middle East, somewhere in India or Indonesia
Terence,
or China.
We've always done stuff that gives us hell to pay later.
True. The trick is to make it much later.
Yeah, usually something disclosed about 50 years later. When they don't want you to know something, they wait about 50 years. We fed plutonium.
That seems to be the half-life of hot information. Yeah.
That's right. Wait until most of those who are going to be really angry die off, right?
That's right.
That's how it works. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, how could we allow ourselves in the black budget world to be behind the cloning curve? I just can't imagine that. I mean,
of course, and people talk about, the perfect soldier out of
that's right.
The infantryman finds the right one and then make 50,000 of that guy.
That's right. That's exactly right. So we have all these dark black military budgets, and what are they doing with them? Well, they're going to want they're not going to want to duplicate Mother Teresa. You can be sure of that. Deep underground somewhere, they're not turning out more Mother Teresas. They're trying to get the perfect killing machine.
Well, but they're going to tell you, Art, that if you clone every soldier, then when he's wounded in battle, there'll be a nice crop of organs back on ice in the clone ward for him.
Well, that's what you'd tell the perfect soldier, I guess, to keep him happy.
Well, that's what you'd tell the public relations officer.
So we're moving very rapidly toward all sorts of things that are going to require. Are we really up to making the proper moral decisions? Is all of this keeping up with technology?
Well, this is the great question. H.G. Wells 100 years ago, he said history is a race between education and catastrophe.
God, you're a blast to talk to. All right, hold on, Terence. You've got a good break here, assuming that our power lasts. When we come back, we will go to the lines. Terence McKenna is here. He's more or less unlike anybody you've ever heard. So assuming that our power stays up, he'll be back, and we'll get you on the air with him if you would so desire. He kind of gave you a range of subjects that he enjoys. It's a wide range indeed, so pick up that phone.
Well, I think it's time to get ready to realize what I have found. I have been on the path of what I am. It's all clear to me now. My heart is on fire. My soul's like a wheel that's turning. My love is alive. My love is alive. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Something inside that's making me crazy. I'll try to keep it together. What I say may not happen the same way. Now it be forever. My heart is on fire. My soul's like a wheel that's turning. My love is alive. My love is alive. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My love is alive. My love is alive. I'm all moving inside my mind, reflecting the love that you shine on me. Hold on now to that feeling. Let it go, let it go, yeah, yeah. My heart is on fire. My soul's like a wheel that's turning. My love is alive. My love is alive. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My love is alive. My love is alive. Don't you feel it growing day by day? People, get ready for the news. Come ahead, somebody say, oh, I've got a lesson to say. What the people need is a way to make them smile. It ain't so hard to do it, things around. Gotta get a message crowd is growing bigger. Don't you feel it growing day by day? People getting ready for the move. Come ahead, come on, stay. Oh, I'm gonna let the music play. What the people need is a way to make them smile. It ain't so hard to do if you know how. Gotta get a message. So that mama don't feel that wild. Well, I know you know better. Everything. Get a man. So that mama don't feel that wild.
To talk with Art Bell in the Kingdom of Nye from outside the U.S., first, dial your access number to the USA. Then, 800-893-0903. If you're a first-time caller, call Art at 702-727-1222. From east of the Rockies, 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, call Art at 1-800-618-8255. Or call Art on the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. This is Coast to Coast AM from the Kingdom of Nye.
Once again, Terence McKenna. Terence, it looks like we're okay to go here. Power's been on for almost an hour now.
Feeling confident, are you, Art?
Yeah, that's just when it gets you. I know. But what the heck, I'm going to try it. I've got a bunch of people on the line who would like to say hello to you.
Great.
It's a rare opportunity, so let's do a little bit of that. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna in the wilds of Hawaii.
Hi, this is Adam from Austin. I have an experience I'd like to relay to Mr. McKenna.
Sure.
I've been experimenting with visionary substances now for several years, and recently I tried DMT for the first time in freebase form, and I, quite frankly, was mesmerized. It shook me. All I can say is it hit me in the soul. I did experience the self-transforming elf machines and
what
Terence refers to as the self-transforming elf machines.
Well, maybe somebody could help me out here, either one of you. Self-transforming elf machines, Terence, please?
Well, it's not an elf and it's not a machine, but it's rapidly changing from one to the other right in front of your eyes. Well, it's interesting to hear your story. Yes, when it works, it makes an instant believer out of you. I'm not sure a believer in what, a believer in the power of possibilities, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. And the part of the experience that hit me hardest was they were actually, I believe, attempting to translate to me your time wave zero theory. The acceleration of technology to the point of just, I'm not sure, it was...
Integration, disintegration.
Exactly.
Yes, well, there is something, the strange thing, Art, about these plant psychedelics is the sense at high doses that they want to communicate something very specific. It's not love one another. We have that message. Mm-hmm. It's some kind of very specific message about time and genetics or humanity or something.
What is time wave zero, actually?
Well, time wave zero is this set of theories that I alluded to a few minutes ago that take the position that time is this flux of novelty and habit that has been built into the genes and natural processes from the quantum mechanical get-go way back at the Big Bang, and that probability is actually a kind of blurred lens for looking at nature, and that until we understand the actual fractal nature of time, where the same patterns are repeated at many, many different scales and create an interference pattern that then accounts for what we experience as reality.
What does the zero part of it mean, Terence? Is that the
zero part of the time wave theory is that this interference pattern, which keeps pushing habit and novelty around over very long periods of time, novelty begins building up faster and faster, and eventually it reaches infinity. In other words, habit falls to zero, and you get the notion of everything happening at once, or somehow all possibilities becoming realized, that being the only logical consequence of this tendency of the universe to complexify itself faster and faster. And I don't know if you and I have ever talked about it, Art, but the most fascinating scientific discovery of last year, according to Science magazine, was this cosmological constant called omega. I'm sure Michel Kaku can talk to this, but the discovery that all of space and time is ruled by an outward expulsive force that's embedded in the space-time matrix itself. And the interesting thing about that force is, like the time wave I theorized, it accelerates through time. It's moving faster and faster. So the new cosmology, just 8 months old, holds that the universe is basically going to undergo this kind of inflationary expansion, like the quickening, like the novelty concrescence that we've been talking about. This has now emerged as the paradigmatic notion in astrophysics after being resisted for 50 years. Einstein played with the idea, called it his biggest blunder and dumped it, but now observational astrophysics is forcing them to realize this force exists, and it is in time going to emerge as the dominant force shaping the physics of the universe.
Fascinating. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Where are you, please?
Hi, Art. My name's Maureen. I'm calling from Redding, California.
Well, hi there.
Hi. We have some funky power struggles going on.
Well, I'll tell you.
Hi, Terence.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I was just wondering, are you familiar with contrails at all?
With who?
Contrails?
Yeah.
That's something we've been discussing on the show.
Right. Okay.
Oh, is it the thing about the large numbers of contrails that people think are a viral seeding or nanotech project?
Absolutely.
Well, fortunately, I only know of this because I follow the internet. I haven't seen any contrails here. We got a photograph of a DEA helicopter where you could see the rivets on the sucker yesterday morning, but no contrails.
Well,
was that over your house, Terence?
Oh, yeah, they fly this neighborhood like crazy. They're true believers in it. But they're not supposed to come closer than 200 feet to the ground, and this guy was well under 200 feet.
Well, you know, they make the rules.
Yeah, well, for the wise men and the fools.
I'm not oblivious to the possibility that, for example, let's just draw a quick little scenario. If our government thought that we were on the verge of a biological attack of some sort, and they had what they thought was a remedy for it in terms of some sort of mass inoculation, I don't think for a second that they would not consider an inoculation without our specific permission. And what better way to do that than to add to what to most people are just harmless little contrails cutting across the sky. So that's one, possibility. There are other more sinister ones, but that's at least one that would make sense to me.
Well, do you remember those experiments that came out a few years ago where they spread powder in airports and railway stations back in the 60s, some kind of bacterial powder that they could then follow? It was some study of a possible contamination.
New York subways, Terence, San Francisco, gee whiz, they did a whole bunch of that sort of stuff. So
so it would be nice to think that they're inoculating us for our own good against the evils hatched in the laboratories of Serbian fascisti. I like that scenario. Let's do the movie.
All right. First time caller line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Hello.
Is this me, Art?
Only you know that for certain, but it sounds like you.
Well, thanks, Art.
Where are you?
In Indiana.
Okay, you're going to have to kind of yell at us. You're not too loud.
Oh, yeah, I don't hear him.
Yep, see? So yell at us.
Well, I wanted to thank you for the response on the email first, Art, because I didn't expect to get one back so quick from you.
Oh, with regard to
Crystal Gale's dress. I don't know if you answered this or not.
Of course I remember, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as the question that I wanted, I think what I wanted to do was compliment this person. I've never heard him before, but he's awful good.
Yes, he is. He's very, very good, yes.
And I had a question as far as to possibly ask him if this would work over in Yugoslavia, since he is, so bright. Can I ask it?
If what would work? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I really believe we have a major problem, and
you're right.
I don't think we should look at it too lightly.
Nor do I.
So anyway, if you think this would work, I would like to know, and that is to, give the president over there, the dictator, 3 weeks to eliminate all the people in his town, Belgrade.
Belgrade, the capital?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they could all move out, like they've moved everybody from Kosovo.
Yes.
And they would have a chance to get away from that town.
And then we would do what to Belgrade?
Well, we would destroy it, like they've destroyed those villages.
I see. All
and
right.
they could.
Well, let's see how
would that work?
Well, I don't know whether it would work or not. What do you think of that little gem of an idea, Terence?
Well, I think the word quagmire comes to mind. I also think that Belgrade may be being destroyed as we speak. I keep going over to Reuters' top stories, but I don't think anybody's going to be given 3 weeks' notice. I think it's tonight or tomorrow night, judging by the pace of things. Will it have an effect? I don't know. Dictators are extremely immune to popular pressure unless their generals come to them and lay their pistols on the table. These guys have a tendency to hang on. I think we've bitten off a hell of a lot to chew, and I'm certainly in favor of confronting fascism, but I think you need to choose your fights carefully.
Well, I also think that some of the people who make these decisions, these goodwill decisions to go and bomb until there is peace, should be required themselves to do some of the heavy lifting, but they just make the intellectual decisions and spew out the orders to those who must go and do the work.
Well, and it's a strange way of handling the problem, isn't it? I mean, we'll spend probably $500 million. A lot of peasants will be pushed around. Some people will be killed. What do we have covert operations for? What do we have special forces for?
Right.
The guy to get is Milosevic.
That's right. That's right. And I would also note that this horrid flood of refugees really did not seem to begin until our bombing did. Did you notice that?
Yeah, well, people are just trying to get out any way they can. I think ethnic cleansing in Kosovo is fait accompli at this point.
Yeah. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna in Hawaii. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Just fine. Just fine.
Oh, well, I can't believe I'm finally talking to you.
Where are you?
Actually, I'm on the West Coast. I'm in California.
On a cell phone.
On a cell phone. How did you know?
Just a guess.
Well, the question that I had was in regards to marijuana use, and I don't know if that's one of the topics that he was talking about.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Okay, because I heard the other guy talking about DMT, and I'm not really sure about exactly what that is. What exactly is DMT? Did I miss something?
It's a good question. What is DMT?
DMT is dimethyltryptamine. It's a human neurotransmitter and an alkaloid that occurs in plants and a kick-ass hallucinogen that you smoke.
Oh, okay. So is it contained in marijuana or?
No. Marijuana is THC and various cannabinoids. But what was your thought on marijuana?
Okay. Well, Terence, the question I had about it was, I'm 25 years old, and I've experimented with marijuana since the age of 8, and well, I can't say experiment. I was
going to say you should.
More than an experiment at this point. But I stopped for several years. I did some military service and so forth, so I wasn't able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did notice that when I stopped, I experienced some depressive anxiety kind of like side effects from not using it. I don't know if this was because of long-term effects of using it.
You're saying you went through withdrawal?
Yes. Well, I can't say withdrawal, but I think that what happened was I tried to substitute it for something else because I wasn't able to use it. So I went over to smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol, which was the substitute for it.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, it just seems like it was more of like trying to substitute it. And
so part of what you're saying here is that marijuana was a gateway drug for you to alcohol.
Well, something like that. It was just that it was illegal, and
I understand.
What he's saying, Terence, let me interrupt. What he's saying is that when he couldn't do pot anymore, then he resorted to smoking and booze.
Exactly.
And most drugs are used by most people to relieve stress.
That's right.
If you only smoke cannabis once a month or something, it's pretty spectacular mentally. But if you smoke it every day or two, you're basically using it to handle stress, which is legitimate, of course. I mean, that's why somebody has a drink in the evening or even watches TV. I mean, TV is a drug that is used to relieve stress, although arguably long-term it may add to your stress. But yeah, habits are difficult to break, and chemical habits are the most difficult habits to break. Nature sets us up to chemically addict us to the people around us, our routines, the foods we prefer. This is something that, as I said earlier, we're not facing and talking about and educating our kids about. It's like the way the 19th century approached people's sexual fantasies and desires is sort of the way we approach our relationship to drugs. We're not really owning up to how complicated it is.
Now, can I ask a straight-out question? That's why. In other words, what is it that our government, our elected leaders, our institutions can't handle about people doing drugs?
Very simply, drugs are, for mysterious reasons, deconditioning agents, and they cause people to question cultural values. And every political system on earth is in the business of maintaining cultural boundaries. So it's an implacable opposition there that's not easily negotiated away. It's a very brave, self-confident society that can legalize all drugs, because it means that society is not afraid of looking in its closets and playing with a fair deck.
Are there examples we can point to where such a policy is in place and working well?
Well, everyone talks about the Netherlands, you know, legal prostitution, lowest AIDS rate in Europe, legal heroin, lowest heroin addiction rate in Europe, no prison building going on. Young people are using cannabis, yes. They are not using hard drugs. The connection between the soft and hard drugs seems to have been broken by legalization there. But our own drug czar completely distorted the Dutch position in public statements to the point where he later had to publicly retract what he said.
It was horrible. It was absolutely
just
horrible.
A disgrace.
All right. Hold on, Terence. We're at the bottom of the hour already. As I confidently say, maybe our power now will stick with us. It is true, our drug czar said so many just flat untruths with regard to what happened there, and that he had to retract them. It's simply untrue. And yet we continue to maintain this fear-based regulation and law that comes from Washington nonstop. I wonder why. I'm Art Bell. This is Coast to Coast AM.
Falling in love with you. Only fool falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Will it be the same? Falling in love.
Listen here, I'm beginning to get reports from the west that we've had a power surge in more than just one place. I just got a report from Seattle. If you've had a big power surge, do me a favor and fire me some email very quickly, would you please? And we'll try and find out how widespread this was. My email address, of course, is artbell@aol.com. So I'll kind of monitor my email for a while here, and we'll try and decide how wide this was. Good morning on the net. We're, I don't know, about 30 seconds from here.
From the Kingdom of Nye, this is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. From east of the Rockies, call Art at 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, at 1-800-618-8255. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. And you may fax Art at area code 702-727-8499. Please limit your faxes to 1 or 2 pages. This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. Now again, here's Art.
Once again, I do seem to be here, and the power continues to remain on. And we're getting some interesting reports that may indicate this was a little more widespread than we thought at first. And we'll check that out in a moment. Terence McKenna's here, and he's just 1 moment away. That's right. Now, back to Terence McKenna in beautiful Hawaii. Beautiful paradise, Hawaii. It really is a paradise. I don't know how many of you have ever had the opportunity to get away from the main island and go to, for example, Maui. I've spent a lot of time there, and it really is like living in paradise. And I don't know how anybody could leave there and go anyplace else, though I did that. All right, Terence, here we go. A lot of people want to talk to you west of the Rockies. You're on the air with Terence McKenna. Oh, you're up in Seattle, aren't you?
Right. It's Carl up in Seattle.
Carl, what happened up there?
Well, I just heard on Como because I was, thank God they have redial buttons on these phones.
Yeah.
But anyway, while I was busy redialing, I was listening to it, and they said we had a power surge about an hour or so ago.
That'd be about right.
And I wasn't looking out the window, but they just mentioned it because there was a peak, and I heard it click, and I noticed the lights flickered. I'm just lying in my apartment with the lights out here, listening to you on the radio, but I noticed there was a little flicker in the lights.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of it's very interesting that this should occur on a day when they said that there would be some sort of possible beginning Y2K effect. It really is.
Precursor.
Yeah, precursor. There you go. That's good. That's Ed's word, precursor.
Well,
Anyway.
okay, Art, you know, I got to tell you, one thing I like about you is you've got an old-time radio voice. You speak in fonts. And I really enjoy that. And I have a question for Terence.
Yes.
Terence, can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. Talk to me about Salvia divinorum. I'm growing some this year. I've been growing it for the last 3 years, but the last time I tried that stuff, it scared the hell out of me. I thought that Jay Leno was talking about me on TV, and I thought it was like Philip K. Dick novel where they were sending out the telepathic police.
And your question is?
What's been your experience with it, and what is it trying to tell you? Because it doesn't seem to be a very friendly teacher.
Well, it's certainly different chemically and in terms of its effect, but I've found it very interesting. I know most people seem to be smoking it. I did most of my experiments with it a few years ago. I enjoyed chewing it. I laid down in silent darkness, and it swept me away to a very interesting sort of colored, flexing, three-dimensional kind of place.
I've enjoyed the link to Daniel Siebert's page from your homepage, and I must say your homepage is very professional.
Oh, well, thank you. It's going to all change soon. I designed that one. My son is going to take over the design process, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. The new one is going to have a lot more links, so check it out.
I got to say also that you guys were talking about, I think the history of drug enforcement in this country is just sort of like a series of unhappy accidents. But they used to say that Social Security was the third rail of American politics, and now it's drugs. I don't think we can do anything about it. And what really gets me is they start talking about kids using solvents. Well, I think there's a natural urge to go out there and break down those boundaries because language encodes stuff for you. And I think one of the reasons people take psychedelics is because it breaks down the barriers and you get to see stuff real again.
But
well, in shamanic societies, you know, they take the young kids out and the men give the young boys psychedelics and the women initiate the young girls. And instead of the taking of a substance being a symbol of the rejection of social values, it becomes the doorway to the full acceptance of social values. So
well, my answer to the drug problem was grow your own. I think they should just make everybody pay a marijuana stamp tax, and we can just all grow our own, and that would cut the black market right out of it.
Well,
that's
if
right.
the profit were removed by any means, either by legalization, grow your own, or what have you, the drug problem would shrink to a whole new dimension.
Here's an interesting bit of email. Ken from Bloomington, Indiana says, hey, Art, you know, when I was in the Army, we used to say killing for peace is like whoring for virginity. That's how I react to it. I love it.
Well, remember the logic in 1984? War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength.
That's right. That's exactly right. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna in Paradise.
Art?
Yes.
This is Kathy in Texas.
Hi, Kathy in Texas.
I've been listening to you for about 6 months now, and I love your show.
Thank you.
And of all
First-time callers, area 702-727-1222.
Well, so much for my confidence. What just happened is that we had, now I'm realizing what's going on. It's not that I'm going off the air. It's that I'm so sorry, dear, in Texas and Terrence. What's occurring when we lose power, apparently, is that the phone company is also instantly losing power. And so it's not that I'm going off the air, but it's rather that my telephone connections, courtesy of the phone company, are simply disappearing on me. In other words, even though I'm staying on the air here, we've got plenty of backup. When we have these instantaneous failures, what is occurring is that the phone company themselves is losing it for just a second. So there really are some odd things going on with power tonight, folks. Boy, I'll tell you, strange. April 1st. April 1st. They'd said something about April 1st and Y2K, didn't they? It's true. Not all Internet service providers are quite created equal. I'm talking about MindSpring, the ISP created over time by good people who built their company one customer at a time. Their customer service, their ability to put you on the Internet is simply unsurpassed, and that's why both PC World and PC Computing magazines awarded them the best Internet service provider for 1998. Move your Internet connection to MindSpring today. Tomorrow morning, call them. 1-888-M-SPRING. That's 1-888-M-SPRING. Tell them Art Bell sent you, and guess what? They'll waive the $25 start-up fee, give you 30 days of service free from the day you sign up. MindSpring gives you great customer service, 24 hours a day, fast 56K connections. Not the 28K connections used by, those other companies. Oh, and the Spaminator. I love that. A device that eliminates pesky, unwanted email advertisements. Go to the Internet service provider created especially for people that do like good customer service. That would be you, right? Tomorrow morning, call award-winning MindSpring, 1-888-M-SPRING. And remember, the $25 startup fee will be waived, and the first 30 days of service is free. All you have to do is mention Art Bell sent you. 1-888-M-SPRING. All right, we're back. We are back, but boy, I'll tell you, this really has been just nothing short of incredible. Terence, are you there?
Yes, I'm sorry we lost the lady in Texas.
I'm sorry, too, because she was about to say something profound. I know it. It sounded like it, but now I'm realizing what's occurring. We're staying on the air here, but the phone company is also affected by the electricity bumping the way it is, and so they bump all my lines off the air. Boy, I'll tell you, the knee bones connected to the...
So you lost all the people in waiting?
Yeah, of course. I've got another line of people now in waiting. The phones are constantly full, but every time this occurs, it dumps everybody. It's horrible. Anyway.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy is right. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Hello.
Hi, this is Erin from Boulder, Colorado.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if Terence could talk a little bit about what the Mayans predicted would happen in the year 2012 and how that coincides with his ideas about what might happen then, too.
Oh, well, that's a very interesting question. It's funny that you're from Boulder because Boulder is the home of John Major Jenkins, who wrote a very interesting book published this past year called Maya Cosmogenesis 2012. And in that book, he discusses the various interpretations of the end of the Mayan calendar. Basically, what happens in 2012 is it's the end of the 13th Baktun, and Baktuns are periods of time longer than 500 years. 13 of them make up a full cycle of the Mayan calendar. And it appears that this was linked by the Mayans to a certain astrological configuration where the winter solstice sun heliacally rises at the galactic center. This is sort of technical stuff, but that's it in a nutshell. It's an alignment with the galactic center and the winter solstice rising sun that pegged the whole Mayan world machinery, and it's coming around after 26,000 years in about 13 years.
So what sort of implications does that have for us? What's supposed to happen then?
Good question.
Well, very little of the literature of the Maya survives, so we don't know whether the best guess is that for the Maya, the end of the 13th Baktun indicated the beginnings of the first moments of true creation. So rather than seeing it as the end of the world, they saw it as some kind of beginning of an era of perfection, sort of like the 1,000 years of the millennium predicted in Revelation. So I think we can't know, but what we can know is that if you wanted to peg your calendar to the largest cosmic cycle that human beings have observed affecting the Earth, you would choose this 26,000-year precessional cycle, and they chose it with great accuracy, even though their own civilization didn't live to see the coming of that particular time. But we will.
How's that?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Here's another email. This is interesting, Terence. This email says, Art, there have been power surges and outages up and down the entire western U.S. during the last half hour. This was written at 1 a.m. It just fried my computer. What's going on? So we may be getting a little taste here, Terence. Hard
yes,
to say.
I'm fascinated by it. There was no report on the tech page at Reuters of any problem in Europe or the East Coast today, because I checked before I came on the program. But maybe the April 1 rollover is biting in the West Coast.
Maybe it is. First time caller line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Hello.
Hello, is this me?
That's you.
Hey, this is Michael calling from Oregon, long-time listener.
Hi, Michael.
I just want to say first, Art Bell, I think you're a god. I love
No,
your
I'm
video show.
not a god. I'm not a god.
Well, I mean, personal opinion. And my question for Terence is, do you think that with the way that technology and people's self-knowledge is progressing, that we're going to reach a point in time where all of our mental boundaries will be broken and we'll just be free of thought?
I think we're going to see all kinds of group mind activities and complicated games that will slowly teach us how to operate as group minds the way flocks of birds and schools of fish do. I've been recently spending more time in the virtual and interactive worlds online, the worlds where you dress up as an avatar and meet other people in designed worlds. And if you haven't checked in on that lately, it's gotten a lot better. And you can see the potential for people creating worlds and then sharing them with other people online, so that really we're peeling open our heads and letting it all hang out. And it's going to have a real impact on community and the human self-image and the way we think about the individual and the community.
Definitely.
All right?
Definitely.
All right, callers, thank you. Terence, by email, can you shed some light on why some people have such apparent creative enlightenment? Call the wildcard lines, area 702-727-1295. Emotionally and physically, and there we just went through it again. Damn! This is really getting to be bothersome. This is just going on and on and on. Now, what I'm going to do is get Terence back one more time, and instead of continuing with him past the hour, I think we'll terminate at the top of the hour so that I can continue in some coherent fashion instead of being interrupted. And it pains me to do that, but I can have Terence back, and I will have Terence back. He deserves better than this. We all do. It is, to say the least, interesting timing for this, is it not? The best advertising is word of mouth. So please allow me to introduce the words of Gilbert of Oak Harbor, Washington. Quote, I was taking Cardura medication for my prostate problem, which helped for a couple of months, but then the symptoms became worse and doctors were getting me ready for surgery. I heard then about Super Prostate Formula on Art's show, and I decided to give it a try. After 3 weeks, all my symptoms were gone. That was a year ago, and they're still gone, unquote. Millions of men are suffering from enlarged prostate symptoms, such as frequent trips to the bathroom and diminished sex drive. Dr. Duplinsky's Super Prostate Formula contains natural ingredients clinically proven to reduce the size of the prostate and relieve those symptoms. This is your lucky day, because right now you can buy 2 bottles of Super Prostate Formula and get a third free. That's a 3-month supply for the price of only 2. Call Physician's Choice now at 1-800-472-5151. It's guaranteed to work or your money back. And by the way, you can't get it in stores. So call 1-800-472-5151. That's 1-800-472-5151. Buy 2 and get 1 free. Good Lord, this is, at least we're getting through our commercial load here rather quickly, but this is astounding. This has been the wildest night of power outages that we've had. Let me think now. Since the Western power outage, the entire Western third of the U.S., Canada, and Mexico went out. This is the worst night, and maybe even a little worse in some respects because it has been extremely unstable. I wonder what's going on. Terence, did you get the question before we blipped out?
Yes, the question was, why are the psychedelics so beneficial to some people and so shattering to other people?
That's correct, yes.
And the simple answer is there's a lot to be said for going back and looking at the concept that Leary and his colleagues put forth in the 60s of set and setting. Setting is, you take these things, you don't do it in a noisy nightclub, you do it in a place that's secure, comfortable, familiar, and then the set, your mindset, you do it calmly, you aren't hysterical, you aren't emotionally wrought up, you aren't drunk, and if people will follow these simple rules, which are basically rules of reasonable behavior and respect for the substance, most people do fine.
So your answer is the people that have gone the wrong way have had the wrong attitude. That's kind of what it boils down to, right?
Been in with the wrong people in the wrong places at the wrong time. That doesn't cover 100% of all unpleasant experiences. I mean, some people are on prescription drugs that tangle with these things unpleasantly.
Sure.
And some people, if psychedelics dissolve boundaries, there's probably 2 or 3% of the population that is involved in trying to maintain boundaries, and those people should stay away from psychedelics. They have a different agenda.
All right, let's grab one before the top of the hour. East of the Rockies, you're on there with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Good morning to you.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to, first off, make a statement about the Y2K bug.
Sure.
I have a very good friend who, back in the 80s, he claims that he actually helped code it.
Code the Y2K bug?
Yes.
Well, that might just mean he was a programmer doing what they all did.
It's going to be bad, according to him.
Yes, you're trying to suggest that he was part of some sort of conspiratorial effort to make sure the Y2K bug hit hard?
No, it's not conspiratorial as far as I know. But from what he tells me is that it is out there and that he did help write the code for it.
Well, a lot of people did that. All right. Anything else, sir?
Yes. First, I'd like to, my first question is about the element that you mentioned earlier, element 92.
Yes.
Where would I find more information about that?
At your local library. They'll even teach you how to arrange it so that you can cause a massive explosion with that element. You just have to do a little reading.
All right.
All right.
And my last question would be for Terence. What is the drug that he's used that has given him the most powerful experience?
That's a good question. Terence?
Well, powerful, I don't know. In terms of life-changing, I mean, certainly psilocybin at one point changed my life, LSD at another point, DMT all along the way. It seems to be this small family of tryptamines, and then, of course, LSD isn't a tryptamine, but at high doses, and these safe but high doses, all of these things have had life-changing impact on me and the people that I'm aware of.
Every time I have you on there, I have to quickly ask this question. Where, Terence, are Timothy's 25,000 hits? Where are they buried?
Well, didn't I tell you last time?
Do you have a little map with an X on it or something?
Somewhere out there in the deserts east of Tonopah. South of Truth or Consequences.
All right, stay right there. Terence McKenna, as we can get him. This is one strange night, folks. I'm telling you, I have never, ever seen this many power bumps and failures in one night of broadcast in my entire life. Really weird stuff going on. kind of synchronistic timing, wouldn't you say? This is Coast to Coast AM.
Talk with Art Bell in the Kingdom of Nye. From east of the Rockies, dial 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, 1-800-618-8255. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. And you may call Art on the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. To reach Art from outside the U.S., first dial your access number to the USA. Then 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM from the Kingdom of Nye with Art Bell.
It is indeed for the time we are here. Terence is hanging in there with us. We're experiencing all night long now an outage that lasted about 45 minutes, and then sporadic bumps and surges that have been almost non-stop. And I hope my surge suppressors can handle the work. It's been pretty rough, let me tell you. The timing is at least odd. So Terence McKenna will be right back. Now again, the interesting thing with the power surges that I'm experiencing, and my phone system is on an uninterruptible power supply. So as you may have noted, you can actually hear it when it occurs. You'll hear a little bleeping sound. And the phones, nevertheless, are disconnecting all of you, so I apologize, including, of course, my guest. And the reason that apparently is occurring is because I guess the phone company also is dependent to some degree on the electricity. And it may be that when, where I am at least, when there's a problem, it just instantaneously glitches the phone lines, and I lose everybody here. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Terence, welcome back.
Yes, I'm glad we're still hanging on, Art.
Here's somebody hanging on in Smith County, Tennessee, and he too had a power failure. Went out for about 5 minutes 2 hours ago. No storms, no winds. So kind of strange. First time caller line. You're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Hi there.
Art.
Yes.
Good to talk to you. Long time listener.
Yes, sir. Where are you?
I'm in Smith County, Tennessee.
You are?
Yeah, that was me.
You had a power failure?
Yeah. It just, wasn't paying much attention to it, and it just, I heard you talking about it, and it stopped me in my tracks. I turned around and turned up the radio. I was fixing to go to bed, and I didn't really think anything of it, but it's odd.
It's odd. I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Hi.
Oh, hi. This is Richard from Las Vegas.
Yes, Richard.
I had a question for your guest. Does he think that due to the fact that the government's losing control of information through the Internet and the cable news and everything, that it's going to try to become more repressive in other ways, like in the drug enforcement and things like that?
Well, the question is, the government is indeed to some degree losing control because of the Internet. Things are happening the government, I'm sure, is not pleased with. So that's a pretty good question in itself. They created the Internet. Is the monster that they created now biting them in the butt, or what? Terence? God, we lost Terence again.
Wow, I'm still here.
How's Las Vegas?
I haven't lost power yet.
You haven't lost power yet. Have you seen it blinking or surging?
No. In fact, I've been surfing the net listening to you, and I haven't had any problems, except when your phone lines go down, your website goes crazy, too.
It does?
Yeah.
All right, sir. I appreciate the call. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Take care. I'm going to have to try and get Terence back. Now, I have no idea why we lost Terence this time, because this time we didn't have a power failure. Every other time we have. Let me see if we can get him back here. It's just absolutely astounding. I'll actually dial him right now. I'm going to break to dial him. Let's see. I'll even let you hear it ring. Here we go. Watch this.
Hi, Art. You want to see? Maybe we should pack it in. What do you think?
Hold on a sec. Tell you what, the next time it occurs, we'll pack it in.
Okay,
But
I'm
this,
game.
You know, this time, the power didn't fail. You just went away. I don't know.
On this end, it sounded just like all the others.
Now we appear to have not such a hot phone connection either. Do you hear that?
And it's the same for me. You want to call back and try again?
Let's bear with it for a few minutes and see how it does. Boy, Y2K, here we go.
Yeah, if this is general, I mean, it's 2:30 in the morning where you are. The load on the system is very low. It shouldn't be happening now.
That's exactly right. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna, I hope.
Good morning.
Good morning. Where are you?
This is Mike from Cleveland.
Yes, sir.
I just called to tell you that this morning, around 3 o'clock at our time, we had a couple of flashes, and about 5, our power went out. And they gave us this, I don't know, it sounds kind of screwy to me. They were saying because we had a light rain shower and hadn't used, or there was salt, and the salt had caused some 50 telephone poles to catch on, electric poles to catch on fire. And there were
So
about
that's what they
65,000 people out of power.
65,000 for 2 hours?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Longer than that in some cases.
Well, this is beginning to seem to be a pattern to me.
That's what I was thinking. That's why I wanted to get on the phone and call you.
Well, welcome to the new millennium.
Yeah,
early.
Great looks.
Yeah, appreciate the call, sir. Thank you. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Hi.
Hey, guys. This is Eric from Los Angeles.
Yes, sir.
I really like your show, Art.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for everything. I was just wondering, are you guys going to go see the new movie Matrix? The premise of the movie is a combined nanotechnology, biological hallucination that everyone has more control over their illusion. Should be interesting. But my question is for Terence. Terence, through all your interdimensional travelings, do you have any concept of what the afterlife for you would be?
No, we've discussed this here in the last 24 hours, and I was shown to be inadequate. I have noticed in virtual reality that sometimes the landscape builds out ahead of you if you have good processors and you can actually watch the landscape springing into existence.
Yeah.
I can sort of imagine the end of life is like that process in reverse. You know, just more and more is subtracted, and my ketamine experiences have convinced me that a consciousness without a body is an entertainable idea.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness without a body is simply like the volume of your mind turned up until it's all there is.
Yeah.
And then I can imagine just unfolding into thought without a spatial locus. But does that go on forever? That's a little hard to feature. Of course, nothing that we know of goes on forever. So to imagine that when you find out what lies beyond death, you found out what eternity is, maybe
that's why we come back.
Death.
Maybe that's why we maybe reincarnate. Do you believe in reincarnation?
Well, if reincarnation occurs, it's a way of getting away from this paradox of eternally existing as a conscious form in some other dimension.
Yeah. One more question: Has the other side ever communicated to you through lights, or have you ever seen the all-seeing eye like from the Egyptian times?
I think that these entities communicate with sound and light, and sound which you can see, and they seem to have some kind of a language which is has more dimensions than acoustical language. It's not telepathy, but it's something that is sculptural. You experience it as a visual medium.
A mosaic.
And it's high bandwidth, yes.
That's incredible.
We could be on the brink of engineering something like that as a human mode of communication if we could unleash psychopharmacology and really understand what's going on.
It's really, we live really in incredible times. Do you think all these prophecies and all these things set in place from the past are ways for us to actually be moving into this new dimension, this new paradigm?
Well, we're at the end of a 1,000-year period, and we're at the climax of the agenda of modern science. And we're moving off the planet, and we're going digital. There are so many transformative tendencies in play that I think you would have to really be resisting the tide to not see that we're ready to make some kind of leap.
It's incredible. I mean, I really see that this paradigm of thought is overtaking the old paradigm, and the old paradigm needs to firmly hold control. And I just think we just keep what we're doing, keep doing like with Art's show. Everything's going to be all right.
Everything's going to be all right.
And that's not through rose-colored glasses either, Art.
All right. I appreciate the call, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Take care. Here's one by email. Somebody wants to know, and I really am not sure myself, wants to ask you your opinion on Tim Leary's work with prisoners and the reasons his findings were suppressed. What do you know about that?
I don't know a whole lot about that. I assume this refers to Vacaville. What I know is that there was a whole wing of Vacaville in the 60s that was basically a CIA laboratory for experimenting on controlling and programming people with drugs. What Tim Leary had to do with it, I'm not a historian of his life. I couldn't say. I do think that Sirhan Sirhan passed through that facility. So did Charlie Manson. So did General Sin Q, the character who led the Symbionese Liberation Army. Remember them?
Oh, yes.
And so there was, it's well documented that there was CIA interest in all these things. Recently, you probably noticed Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who ran that MK Ultra program, he died recently.
I heard that, yes.
Yeah, he took a lot of secrets with him, I'm sure.
What would you imagine would occur to somebody given LSD, unsuspecting, totally unsuspecting, given LSD? What would?
Well, it depends on, again, the circumstances. If you were out in public, I think most people would leap to the conclusion first that they had been poisoned, and then a few minutes later that they were losing their mind. And I think it's one of the most fundamental violations of a person's dignity to give them a drug without discussing it with them and them being fully consensual.
Boy, do I agree. There is no more fundamental invasion of privacy than such a...
William Burroughs once said there was only one commandment, and it was, "Thou shalt not blow pot smoke in thy pet's face."
I'm going to remember that one, Terence. Thanks. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Art Bell and Terence McKenna in Hawaii. Hello.
Hello to you.
Yes, sir. Where are you?
I am in Silicon Valley. Just here doing the computer thing.
Yes, sir.
What I'd like to ask is, a few of us are going to take a trip down to Mexico, and we're going to be doing the Mayan thing down there. And I was wondering if I can get any direction on which way to go. Simple as that.
Which way to
go?
go?
The Mayan ruin of Palenque in the state of Chiapas overlaps mushroom territory. It's a little late, but there still may be mushrooms there this time of year. That's a beautiful ruin. Uxmal in the Yucatan is a beautiful ruin. If you get down to Belize, Xanantunich out in the west end of the country, those are my favorite ones, and Tikal in Guatemala. But Palenque in Chiapas is the gem of the Mayan archaeological site.
Way down south. Can you go that far down south, caller?
Yeah. Well, we just got back from the Andes, and that's all we do is hike in the mountains.
Yeah, well, the Sierra Mazateca behind Palenque is some of the most rugged country in Mexico with some of the world's deepest caves. But, of course, there's political problems back in there. The Mexican army is leaning on the Indians pretty heavily, so you want to know your turf.
Did you find any problems down there when you were there in January?
Not at the ruin, but in the mountains, which begin immediately behind the ruin, all bets are off.
Huh, I gotcha. I just want to also thank you very much for the electronic music culture that's going on, for the work that you've done and the spoken word that you've done with them. I want to thank you very much for that.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, you are definitely in our consciousness around here in the Silicon Valley, and thank you, and thank you for the Santa Cruz visit also.
Thanks for calling.
Okay,
All right.
bye-bye.
Take care. Wildcard Line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Hi. I'm a first-time caller.
Where are you?
I'm in California,
Okay.
Los Angeles, and I'm
Right.
calling on I'm listening to KABC.
The mighty flagship station. Yes, sir,
Yes.
in L.A.
790. The reason I was calling was one reason was my brother did slip me some acid when I was 11 years old, and have that experience I can share.
Oh, my God.
Four-way window pane, and I was never a heavy drug user during my life, but that was a real radical experience. Other than that, nobody seems to want to talk about how much resources they recently found in Kosovo. Someone called me today, because I know a lot of people in the government as well as private, and I'm in international business. They found trillions of dollars worth of resources in Kosovo.
Well, that may well be. What happened to you on this uninvited acid trip?
Well, what happened was my brother was into some sort of satanic rituals with his buddies, and they thought it'd be a great joke to go ahead and slip me four-way window pane.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting really violently ill initially because I didn't know what was going on. I was spinning. I laid down in a waterbed, and the vacuum started running on itself, and it started vacuuming the room methodically, you know? So I realized I knew at that point that obviously my brother and his friends had obviously done something to me, you know? What they had done, I don't know. They didn't tell me at that time. Then I started changing colors, okay? Like blue, green. Then I started going into what they would say kind of like a bad trip, but I was still basically barely able to keep a sense of reality, you could say, you know, because that's a pretty serious dose at that kind of age.
It's a terribly serious dose.
Yeah.
And I guess in youth, thank you, you would handle such thing better. But I would imagine, Terence, not only would somebody who had that done to them feel like they were losing their mind, but probably could actually slip out of reality and stay out of reality under such conditions. That would be one possibility, wouldn't it?
Well, the fear thing starts a cascade, and then people do desperate or foolish things, and no, it's a really dumb thing. Well, this caller comes from a typical dysfunctional American family, satanic rituals, siblings dosing others with LSD. This is why we need drug education.
We are a dysfunctional nation, aren't we? All right, hold tight. Maybe the power will stick with us, Terence. This is Coast to Coast AM. It's a blue moon, too. It's a bad one.
On the way.
Here's some emails. Surges, power surges, serious ones, in Oklahoma about 2 hours ago. That'd be about the right time.
Don't go around tonight, but if you bound to take your time, there's a bad moon on the right. I feel hurricanes blowing. I know the end is coming soon. I feel rivers overflowing. I hear the voice of rage and
Talk with Art Bell in the Kingdom of Nye from outside the U.S. First, dial your access number to the USA. Then, 800-893-0903. If you're a first-time caller, call Art at 702-727-1222. From east of the Rockies, 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, call Art at 1-800-618-8255. Or call Art on the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. This is Coast to Coast AM from the Kingdom of Nye.
Good morning, everybody. Terence McKenna's here, and the power for the moment seems to be stable, and I really shouldn't say that because obviously it'll bring on the worst. We'll just take it as it comes. Terence will be right back. All right. Once again, here we go. I'm telling you, it's wild around here. This is as wild a night as we have had. That's all there is to it. It's just it's a wild night. Here's somebody else. I must have 100 emails here. Felt the power surge in Provo, Utah. Enjoy the show. That's Provo, Utah. So it's one of those nights, and it's going to be interesting to see if and what the press has to say about it later today. Of course, it occurred in the middle of the night, so they may not say a word. Terence, welcome back.
Good to be back.
You are there. Good.
I am.
All right. All right. Here we go, hopefully. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna and Art Bell on a weird night, but fun. Hello.
Hi. This is Frank from Cotati, California. It's Sonoma County.
Hi, Frank.
And I read in Timothy Leary's autobiography, Flashbacks, about some experiments they had done at some prisons back east. I think when he was still at Harvard, using psilocybin to rehabilitate inmates. And the thing about it was they had a far lower recidivism rate, and that just basically got covered up and ignored. And then they got bounced out of Harvard, so it's kind of disappeared. But I thought that was one thing that was pretty interesting. And I want to put in a plug for a book by Dale Pendell. The name of it is Pharmacopoeia, and it's an excellent explication of all the varieties of mind-altering substances. I think it might be an interesting guest for you.
Is that something you're familiar with, Terence?
Yes, Pharmacopoeia, Dale Pendell. He's an interesting character, and he can spin a line of rap. He would be an interesting guest. That's an excellent book.
All right. Well, Terence, maybe you ought to just sort of construct a list of interesting guests and how to get hold of them and email it to me or something.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
I would love that because it sounds like you've got a lot of very interesting suggestions. Now, here's an email from Boulder City, right outside of Las Vegas, and he says, I live just outside of Boulder City, and I'm looking across Boulder City right now, and all the lights are out. Now, that's where Boulder Dam is. So that's kind of interesting, too. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Hi.
Great, I made it. This is John in Las Vegas, 105.1.
Hi, John.
Talk FM.
How you doing?
Hi. I talked to you guys last year on March 19th. I called and related the experience about the dream and the geometry book. And I wrote a short story about it called Times Square. I sent it out on March 13th, Saturday. Sent you a copy, Art.
Yes, sir.
Did you get it?
I got it.
Oh, okay. All right. Terence, if you would care to receive a copy, I'd love to send you one. If you
yeah, go to my website at levity.com, and my email button is right there on the Terence McKenna page.
Well, I'm not really wired, or I don't have a computer.
Go to a library.
Right, but this involves 11 pages with color scans and stuff. I don't know if I can send that out that way.
Well, actually, if you go to that website, my P.O. box is there, too.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I'm not computer literate.
All right. Well, listen, I'll tell you what. We'll even do you another favor. Why don't you give out your P.O. box, Terence?
Sure. It's P.O. B 677, And the name of the town is Honau.
Wait,
Hawaii
hold it.
96726. So that's Honau. Honau, Hawaii 96726. And I'm POB 677.
Post Office Box 677. Spell that town one more time. Honau. Nau. That's a weird name. And you pronounce that?
Honau.
It must have taken a while after you moved there to get that down.
Oh, well.
Or did you name the town? I mean, is it...
No, it's a lifetime struggle for the poor Howley to be able to pronounce Hawaiian even closely to correct.
Yes. East of the Rockies, you're on there with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Morning.
Good morning, Terence, and good morning, Art.
Yes, sir.
I went through Vacaville and another state mental institution in California. They have used those mental institutions not only for programming, but to destroy any political prisoner that they deem a threat to quote-unquote society.
And then when were you in Vacaville?
I was in from 91 until 94.
So that was well after all these things that were charged about the 60s. But I'm sure, all this work goes on. I mean, these, as Art said, these black budget agencies wouldn't be fulfilling the taxpayers' mandate if they weren't pursuing all these horrifying technologies and possibilities. This is always the argument.
Yes, they continually do their little tricks and tricks of the trade. I was very aware of it due to some connections that I had prior to going in, and that's one of the reasons that I was in. And they, in fact, held me 6.5 years illegally without due process of law.
Silence?
Are you there?
Well, I'm just wondering how much of this goes on that we don't hear about, I mean, we have a tendency, you and I mentioned it earlier, to expose the sins of 25 years ago, but what's going on tonight?
You know what, Terence, I wish that I believed that we had had some great transformation, that we are now this moral, ethical government that we thought we had years ago and now have found out, of course, we didn't have. But I don't think anything's changed. I think the players have changed, and I think 25 or 30 years or 50 years from now, we'll find out all the crap we're doing now.
I'm sure that's true. I mean, I think it's a very cynical game. Anybody who thinks we emerged into the light with Watergate or something like that just has bought a very obvious establishment line.
Here. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Is that me?
That's you?
Oh, hi.
Hi, where are you?
I'm in beautiful Vancouver, BC.
Vancouver, all right.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe I'm on here. Gee, well, it's really a treat to hear you're on the air again there, Terence. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to ask you is about specifically DMT, and I've read most of your books, and they're amazing. The connection, the possible connection, has there been any more, have you looked into, or has there been any more research into the possible connection of the tryptamines being a connection to what was known as soma, or what we know as Soma from writing for the Illusion Mysteries?
Continues, I mean, there's endless discussion about what was this fantastic hallucinogen that inspired the writing of the Vedas. Let's see, in a recent issue of Eleusis, Jonathan Ott reviews all theories, including my own, and finds mine inadequate and everybody else's as well. I think it's pretty clear it was psilocybin. Some people want to say it was Amanita muscaria, but Amanita muscaria is an unreliable and sometimes dangerous intoxicant. If it was neither a psilocybin mushroom nor Amanita muscaria, then the candidates are not very promising. So this is an area that needs to be looked at. It was all regarded as settled and that Watson had figured it out, but now we know that there was a lot of evidence that's come to light since he did his work that pushes the argument in new directions. I talk about this in Food of the Gods. There are 2 chapters related to soma.
Yeah, I was asking if there was anything new has come to light since then, or it was.
Well, Giorgio Samarini, who studies Iboga cults in Gabon, told me that in the inner mysteries of these Iboga cults there is mushroom symbolism and the use of the colors red and white. So that's evidence of a possible mushroom cult connected with hallucinogenic substances in Africa. That was a previously missing piece of the puzzle. But no, I wouldn't say this argument has advanced dramatically. I think until Algeria is politically stable enough to permit archaeology in the southern Sahara, the early human use of hallucinogens in Africa and the Middle East is going to remain unclear.
I see. Oh.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the call, sir. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna.
Hey, Art. How you doing? This is Jim over the hump from you in Vegas.
Yes, Jim.
Hey, I kind of tuned in late tonight.
Yes, sir.
But I've understood that there's been a lot of squirrely things going on with power and computers tonight.
Yep.
I'd just like to relate what went on in my world tonight.
What was that?
I work at a major hotel here with a major with production shows.
Right.
And all the intelligent lighting was just unbelievably whacked out tonight, and everybody was just throwing up their hands, couldn't figure it out. During the big wind we had, did you get wind out there yesterday?
Oh, did we get wind?
Yeah, I kind of figured. Anyway.
Was it like a hurricane?
Well, you know, we were experiencing power surges then and fluctuations, and the whole idea was shut it off. So everything was shut down. So that's like what's kind of really weird about it is it's either possibly the power beforehand, but these lighting boards and controllers, which is all high-tech computer-controlled stuff, and everything was just unbelievably out tonight. Nobody
held
could,
up, huh?
Hey, another thing, I just wanted to plug one of your sponsors there. I'm talking to you on that Sanyo 917 right now.
You see, folks, all the bad phones you hear, and until he just told you he was on a portable phone, you would not have known it.
I can sit in my neighbor's kitchen.
I hear you.
And actually, you know, I don't have that external antenna or nothing, but I can get about
a
quarter of a mile away.
I know.
But, hey...
listen, I appreciate it, sir. I got to scoot, but thank you. And there is no better advertisement than proof here on the air. Anyway, onward. Let's see. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Good morning.
Hi, my name's Michael, and I'm in California.
Hi, Michael.
Terence, 30 years ago this month, I was sitting in a coffee shack in below Honau now, making a loincloth, getting ready to go to my draft physical.
Well, so you know Honan now.
Oh, I do well.
Yeah, well, it hasn't changed that much. It's a well-kept secret. With a spelling like that, we figure we're off the map.
I love Captain Cook, the whole area. Something additional to the DMT lore, I was thought of the Sleeping Beauty that kissed the frog and turned him into a prince.
Right.
Well, you know the Toad DMT source, right?
Well, yeah, this is something we haven't mentioned maybe on the air.
I thought maybe you shouldn't. There's not too many toads left.
Well, we don't want to deplete the toads, but there are near relatives of DMT in some toads. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah. Well, it's just the thought of the turning the woman into, or the frog into the prince might have something to do with that.
That's right.
Okay, good evening.
Thank you. East of the Rockies, you're on there with Terence McKenna and Art Bell. Good morning. Where are you?
I'm in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yep.
Now, here's an example of a bad portable phone.
Yep. Some of us don't have a lot of money to buy.
All right, yell into your bad phone and ask your question.
Some of us don't have a lot of money to buy good.
I hear that.
Anyway, I've been growing psychoactive fungus and plants for a number of years now. And I've recently been trying to find plants which contain DMT, and I used the plant mimosa, and I grew that, and it contained the substance, but not in high enough quantities. And I was wondering if Terence could recommend any obtainable plant sources for the source of DMT.
Okay.
Well, Psychotria viridis is the preferred source of DMT in the Amazon. I know it's hard to get and hard to grow. The Mimosa hostiles and the Mexican conspecific species, the name of which escapes me because it's so late at night, those two in the root bark are pretty competitive. There's also Anodonanthra peregrina variety Sibyl. The seeds of that also contain a fair concentration, in fact, a high concentration. Acacia confusa is an eastern, meaning an oriental acacia that has a lot of DMT in it. But Psychotria viridis, if you can get it.
All right. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Terence McKenna in the waning moments.
Hi, from Vancouver again.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the Mayans.
Sir, you were on earlier?
No, in relation
Vancouver,
to that subject.
Yes.
And the coming about of the 2013. Do you see, Terence, the realization of galactic citizenship as a precursor or a result of that time?
All right.
Well, I can fly with that. In other words, technologies seem to be converging toward opening up the Bell non-local quantum realm where presumably all the intelligences of the universe are communicating in some kind of standing waveform. So I don't know how it is that it's keyed to this conjunction with the galactic center, but I do think that we will fulfill the dreams of the ancient Maya, we will fulfill the dreams of the medieval alchemists. We are on a collision course with some kind of revelation of our own place in the cosmos. And exactly how it's all going to hang out, we can't say, but that it is happening is visibly evident all around us.
How close do you think we are?
Well, I still feel comfortable with 2012. I still think that gives us ample room to put in place the understandings, the technologies. I think we have to get over the millennial speed bump. I think a lot of squirrels have seized the high ground, and we have to sort through the prophecies and the revelations one by one, but that the wiser voices will be discerned in this process. This is something you contribute to, Art, by letting everybody tell their story and letting the Darwinian selection of these memes take place.
Indeed, I do that. All right, West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Terence McKenna. Hello.
Is that me?
That's you.
I had a question, and I wanted to tell you something, Art.
Yes?
Did you know you're going to be on repeat of Millennium tonight?
Oh, you know, I meant to tell my audience that. Thank you. That's right. The show, the Millennium program I did, is going to indeed repeat tonight on NBC at, what, 8 o'clock or something?
I think it's 9.
9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the West Coast.
On the West Coast. So wherever you are, that's right. I'll be on Millennium. Thank you.
And I have a question.
Sure.
What about people that take prescribed Medicaid drugs and they don't get the right one? Is that anything like that, like you're talking about?
No.
You mean in terms of the kinds of effects?
Yeah.
No, I think we're talking about something, well, bad medication can go any direction, but psychedelics are certainly more than simply misprescribed responses to drugs.
Well, do you think...
Is that what you mean?
Well, I think that's what you mean. Do you think that drugs ought to be prescribed at all? And if you do, then should psychedelics be prescribed?
Well, see, we don't have any place in our culture or our medical practice for the concept of self-administered recreational drugs. Our culture sets us up to think drugs are for sick people.
No, I know, but I mean in some greater future that we might sit here and imagine for a moment.
Well, I think we're going to see psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, and in fact that already flourishes in an underground form, sure.
So that you could see it go that direction. In other words, there would be legitimate use, legitimate prescription. You would go to the doctor and you would say, I'm depressed. I'm in a unrecoverable state of depression or something, or I'm whatever. And they would prescribe something that would literally alter your perception.
Well, the cure rate of chronic alcoholism with one trip of LSD in the early 60s was 50%. 50%
Really?
with
really?
One trip, yes, at the Saskatoon Mental Hospital in Saskatchewan. All this was published.
Now, why, but where, and why don't we read about it now?
Well, because once LSD was demonized, the idea that it might cure addiction to the drug of choice of the culture just contained too many contradictions for the scientific and medical establishment to want to plow ahead with it, you know.
Terence, we're out of time. As always, listen, thanks on a really rough night for hanging in with me through all the bumps in this road.
It was whitewater training, Art.
We'll do it again, of course, one day. Thank you, Terence.
All right, good night.
Good night. From the desert to paradise. That's it, folks. That's all the time we've got tonight. We really have a wonderful lineup of guests coming up, and you can see them on my website right now, assuming the power holds. That's www.artbell.com, and yes, I will be on Millennium tonight from the High Desert Night Hall. From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening or good morning, as the case may be, across this great land of ours. Actually, commercially, from the Hawaiian and Tahitian Islands out west, eastward to the Caribbean and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Tally-ho there in the Virgin Islands, actually all of them, south into South America, north all the way to the pole, and worldwide on the internet, thanks to broadcast.com and Intel, and of course our G2 stream